The Bluesford brothers are back. Although not a lot of Colorado sports are. So what are we going to do? Talk about the NBA Finals. What are we seeing in these two teams that the Nuggets can learn from? Maybe steal a trick or two here or there. And the Caitlin Clark drama. We have our take on it, how it relates to national media versus local media, and the Jokic debacle of 2 years ago.
And fun with vowels.
All that and more. Dan, play that funky music. All right, we are here on a BEA beautiful Tuesday.
It's a little hot
here. I spent all outside grilling, playing some Jokic and Murray with the son. He now says, Dad, you be Murray, I'll be Jokic.
Oh, perfect.
Which is great.
Unbelievable behavior by
we're
Bodie
developing
Pair.
a two-man game. Yeah.
So you're setting a lot of picks out there?
He hasn't mastered dribbling nor picks yet. But he likes it when I pass it to him. I'll tell you that. And he likes... Today he discovered that it's more fun if my wife plays defense than if it's the three of us all on a team. Because then him and I can just try to keep it away from her, which is pretty good. So, yeah.
Don't let me play defense.
The weather was good for that.
Don't let me play defense out there, Kyle. You know what I'll do. You've seen me. Seen me.
I do know. Lots of fouling. Lots of fouling out there. No. The Patrick Beverly of defense.
Oh, my God. I'm a lockdown defender.
Well, Patrick believes that as well.
I don't like that.
I can't wait till Patrick goes on his
Patrick is dirty.
Talking about
I'm not dirty.
That's true. Yeah, you've never actively attempted to injure anyone that I remember. Yeah, I don't think you have. All right. This is a brilliant segue by two true professionals here. All right. I am Kyle Poland, joined as always by my brother Ryan Poland. And we're going to start off here. I think the biggest story, NBA Finals. I wanted to get into some NBA Finals with you, Ryan. I wanted to talk some of this Caitlin Clark drama because I think it's applicable here in Denver in some weird ways, and I'll kind of make my case to you and kind of get your thoughts on all of it. And then you went to a Rockies game. So I want to wrap up.
Two Rockies games.
Two Rockies games. So I just want to know more about your viewing experience, how things were, but how it's all going. So, but let's start with the biggest story, the NBA Finals. Dallas Mavericks, they knocked out the Kitty Cats of the greatest shooting big man of all time. They somehow overcame him in Carl. And the new face of the league, Anthony Edwards.
I love Ant. Let's not bring Ant into this. Let's not. There's no Ant slander on this podcast.
Yeah. You're right. But
we can slander Cat and Rudy Gobert all we want, and we should.
It was very funny to watch Jaden McDaniels get fouled by KCP. And when they were trying to bounce the dunk to themselves in garbage time into their season ending. That was pretty funny. But Mavericks made it through, and now we have the Celtics who made it through the JV division. What, I guess, are your thoughts on this? Everyone's talking about kind of the big two and what that looks like here. To me, I don't really care about anything after one. I think Luka's the best player in this series. And then I think you can put Jalen, Kyrie, and Tatum in a variety of orders, all depending on the game. But to me, this series comes down to the fact that the next 4 to 5 players you're going to say are all going to be Celtics. And that's kind of where it was with last year with the Nuggets where you were like, okay, like we have Jokic who's the best. Maybe you can make a case that next you could put Bam and them ahead of Murray if you want to. But then it's a long run before we get to Gabe Vincent, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Like, it is him. It's like Christian or Gabe Vincent.
And I think we would both say that this is with or without Kristaps. Like, Kristaps doesn't even have to play, and I think you at least name 4 Celtics before you get to another Maverick. So, the Mavericks have also just been playing sort of unbelievable. Like, those role players were having otherworldly experiences. It felt a lot like the Wolves series with the Nuggets a little bit, where those role players just play out of their mind, and it's like you can stay competitive in games, and the Wolves did in some of them. But they, you can't, when role players are playing, like if PJ Washington, I guess, is going to hit quarter threes at 80%, like the Celtics might be in a little bit of trouble, but I just I don't think that that's probably going to happen. So
I also think the size here and the wings is going to matter a lot in terms of the thing. He had Kyle Anderson closing out.
Yeah, the thing I was going to bring up
comfortable
is the Celtics, like we see this year after year, right? The playoffs are matchup dependent. Like the Wolves were a great matchup for the Nuggets. They were a terrible matchup for the Mavericks. The way you attack the the Wolves is with 2 elite guards. Like you need unbelievable backcourt, and they had that, and the Nuggets didn't, to put it mildly. So I think but this matchup, I guess, to move to the finals, this matchup is really tricky for the Mavs to figure out because the Celtics have so many bodies to throw at Luka. They can guard him with their literal starting 5. So it becomes really tricky when I think this series really boils down to how out of body Kyrie can be, but they also have a lot of bodies for him. You've got Derek White, you've got Drew Holiday, you have like if you built a team to try to guard Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, it would look a little similar to the Celtics because both of the Jays can guard Luka. You can throw a smaller body at him. You can throw a bigger body at him. It's
just hard for him to hunt mismatches, right? Like he hunted Rudy Gobert. Like
and I'm not saying this, I guess.
Absolutely hunted him, but
I'm not saying this
for them to hunt.
Yeah, totally. And he's going to get his. Like he's too good for anybody to shut down. Nobody's going to be like, oh wow, Luka, averaged 15 points for the series. Like he's going to get his 30 because he's otherworldly, but it really is sort of reminiscent of that Suns Nuggets series where it's death by 1,000 cuts. Like KD and Booker can be going off and having 60 points between them, but if you can't stop them on the other end and nobody else is able to get off, like you're not going to win games. You're going to score 100 points and get beat. So
yeah. This is why it's a weird thing, and to bring it back to the Nuggets, why I think any large-scale panic from the Nuggets' fan base is wild, because both of these teams in the finals are a great matchup for the Nuggets. Yeah. We beat the hell out of the Celtics twice in the regular season, and we have owned the Mavs. They beat us later in the season, but like
Jokic would pick their ass apart. They don't have anybody big. Like they're
no. And so while these teams are, like you said, a good thing against the Mavs, or against the Timberwolves, the Nuggets caught a bad matchup with the Wolves, and I saw a stat that they converted on 10% less of Jokic's potential assists than they did in the regular season. So like, that's the series. And they still should have won. They were up 20, right? Yeah. So I think fatigue played a much larger factor than like, oh, they got figured out or they, couldn't do it. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about here, because I think we've seen a lot of mock drafts have the Nuggets targeting the backup center position. We've seen Deron Holmes out of Dayton has been a popular name that's been thrown about. Philip Kowski from Duke has been thrown about. I think a lot of people are like, hey, who's the next Lively, right? Where you used to say, hey, you're a rookie, all the rotations, all that stuff, you're going to make so many stupid mistakes that it is really hard to do that. Now, it helps when you have Tyson Chandler coaching you, one of the best at rotating and making the right reads and all that stuff. But it is a younger league in terms of we are seeing more and more teams that play rookies, that play... Like the Celtics are kind of a traditional juggernaut, right? Like they've had the scars, they've had their runs, and they don't really rely on anyone who hasn't been there and done that before, right? Whereas like you have Lively, you have Gafford, you have these players who haven't done this on this level before. And I wonder if the finals is where they get exposed, but I wanted to get your take on like, can you, if you're the Nuggets, can you draft someone and expect them to be like your backup five? Is that realistic in today's where it's basically superstars making dumb money and then kind of that like 12 to 15 million a year is getting harder and harder to get. And it's a lot more young and rookie contracts.
I think you definitely can because you're really only asking for maybe 6 minutes. Like, because you're going to play a small lineup. You might, I think the roster is going to feel a lot different next year. And I also don't think anybody should be getting any, great idea prizes for the Nuggets potentially drafting a center. Like, we're pretty young and deep at every position except point guard. And that's really only because Strother and Pickett didn't play at all. And we don't even know whether they're good or not because we didn't see them play. So
I think we know Strother's good.
We saw them mess up the G League. Both of them had a lot of success in the G League.
But Strother played, and he had some heaters at Ball Arena. He had some
can shoot the
Highland
ball.
moments. Yeah.
He can shoot the ball, but that's different than what we need him to do, in a playoff situation. But anyways, that's not. But we're lacking.
I'm just saying we got
depth.
to see more glimpses from him than we did for Pickett. Right?
Sure. But I'm just saying, like, you can go find a big man to protect the rim and rebound. Like, I don't think that's like. I think a young player can go do that if he's bought into that being the role. So, go get Zach Edey. Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, he's going to be gone. But
I know. I'm just messing around.
Yeah. Okay. So I do think that you're 100% correct to point out that what the Nuggets are trying to do at the back end of the first round is actually easier than what the Mavericks were trying to do because they were looking for, Lively starts and is important.
And they didn't know.
And we are looking for someone
knew what they were getting there. I don't think
minutes. No, of course not. If anyone knew, Lively would have been a lottery pick, and they would have never seen him.
Exactly. So, I just don't.
If you redrafted it a year from now, he'd be a top 10 pick.
I think that it's really difficult to find that starting level talent in the draft. I really don't think it's that difficult to find a backup.
It just feels like there's
Calvin
more
Booth
young and bad players that you get to play against now, even against good teams.
The thing that I worry about, the thing that keeps me up at night, is Calvin Booth getting cute. Because I think he's sniffing his own farts a little bit in the draft, and he should be. They smell great, but it gets a little dangerous when you start taking swings when you're a developed team as opposed to being able to develop this talent. Because I don't blame Michael.
Looking at you, Bull.
I would not.
You know,
I would not want to play Strother. Like when I'm looking at that bench, I would go to a lot of guys before I got to Strother, because you want to win the game. And it's not about developing. Michael Malone's job is not about developing the talent. That is not his role. His role is to manage the roster to win the game in front of him. So it's difficult to find those minutes, but he's got to. And I think it worries me if he drafts this like developmental like freak athlete, but Malone isn't going to play him because he's lacks the fundamentals necessary to keep Mike Malone from having a fucking heart attack. Like, I think that it could be potentially difficult for me as a fan to swallow. So I hope that we draft more of a safe thing that we know Malone is going to like. Like, those are the sort of traits that I'm looking for that I need us to deliver on.
All right. Before we get into our finals picks, I have a little story time. I am going to be a Deron Holmes evangelist on this podcast.
I don't know who that is. Tell me.
Okay. So we have a mutual friend, Brent. He is interesting basketball takes, but he pays attention to college basketball more than I do. So we're sitting up there watching March Madness, and I'm asking him about what bets he's making. And he says, my favorite play of the day. He says, Dayton. I go, oh, okay. He says, they have a guy. He might go number 1 overall in the draft. I go, oh my God, okay. Like, dude, talent generally wins out in the first round, you know? Like, if you got a stud like that. I said, well, do they have the guards to get it? Oh, they just rain hell from 3. My God, I'm like, man, this sounds like a mid-major dream. I can't wait to join you on this money. They got down by about 20 in the first half, and I was sitting there just talking innumerable shit to him about this pick. I'm just like, wow, look at this Rainmaker Holmes over here. Wow, there's the number 1 overall pick. I looked up mock drafts just to see that he was going in the late first round. And I was like, he's not the number 1 overall pick in one of the worst drafts of all time. What are we doing here? Dayton came back from down 20, and they were down like 12 with like 5 minutes left and went on a rampage to come back in the first round and win me a bunch of money. So I love Mr. Holmes. I love everything about him. He's kind of, and I'm interested to hear your take on him after this scouting report. So he's smart. He has a great like 15-footer, and he's used to being the focus of it, but he has been the focal point of a team. Like, he's used to having the ball. He's used to playing through. So on the one hand, that's kind of good because it lets you play the same style as Jokic for those 5 to 10 minutes with a guy who's used to having the ball in his hands, kind of a center focus thing. And he does have shooting ability. He was under a mid-major, you know, like he's got skills. I think he's pretty ready to contribute in an off-the-bench role. And when you get taken at the end of the first round, you know what it is, right? So, have I sold you on my boy, Mr. Holmes? Or are you concerned that this is a guy who is maybe inflated his stats, which is a college basketball normal red flag for me because the rest of his teammates suck, so he just got to shoot all the time. And there are no other Dayton players who are going to be drafted. I'll tell you that.
All right. Well, I will say, while you were giving that scouting report, I did do a quick Google. And first of all, I love that he's a second. You always want to be a second. Deron Holmes the second? Are you kidding me? I love that.
I forgot about that. That is cool.
Automatically rockets up the board.
Way cooler than a junior.
Second of all, it's DA capital Ron, which is
correct.
Absolutely what you want that to be. I thought you were saying DeJuan at first, and I got to be honest, I was less excited.
Yeah, made you think of DeJuan Blair. And you were
exactly.
Like, he had no ligaments, and he played for the Spurs, and he's kind of fat.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Does this guy look 40 when he was 19 as well, Kyle? No, he doesn't, Ryan.
But the other thing that I really like is that it wasn't just last year. It was 2 years in a row. He shot over 55% from the field, and he made a three. He shot pretty well from three, but he only was attempting 2.5 games. So he was making one. But I love that. I mean, we're talking about a 6'10" guy who the first highlight that I'm seeing on ESPN is him two-handed jamming over some guy who looks like he's in a West Virginia uniform. I love that. And it seems like this is not just you speculating about where we're taking DaRon Holmes. There was a post on Real GM saying that he canceled workouts amid suspicion that we promised him a first-round draft pick, and so he's not working out for any other teams.
Come on home, baby.
So
that makes me more nervous because the last person we promised a roster spot, it didn't go great. Reggie Jackson.
Well,
but that's fine.
the other person who is rumored to like DaRon Holmes is the Oklahoma City Thunder. So anybody that Presti is trying to draft, I want them. So let's get them.
Agreed. All right. Let's get.
If we can't get him, we have to get a knock cheeks.
I mean, you're not wrong. He can take a post-game photo with Grady Dick, and
he was his teammate at Dayton, and I think he was probably as he's a high riser as well.
He's not a high riser. I watched that Dayton team for 2 whole games in that tournament, and let me tell you, I didn't see anybody I liked besides Mr. Holmes.
Well, you clearly weren't
right.
introduced to a knock cheeks.
You're not wrong. I was. Oh no, I was. I did sarcastically say to Brent at halftime, "I'm like, look at Mr. Clapping Cheeks out there, he's missing another." So I don't think he shot well in the first round, but I'm sure he was integral in the comeback. Shout out Mr. Cheeks, as I call him, Sir Cheeks, if you will. All right. Enough of the story time. There'll be plenty of time for draft talk and all that. NBA Finals prediction, Ryan. I am going 4-2 Celtics. I really wanted to go 4-1, but the Celtics do such dumb things for at least 2 games. And I think it might take them time to adjust to the fact that they're playing against an actual basketball team. And they'll be like, what? You guys can make open shots and stuff? This is normally when the everyone in the East dribbled off their clown shoes. I can't believe it. Luka dribbled it 3 straight times and scored a basket. That was unreal. We haven't seen this level of competition in quite some time. But I do think the Mavericks are slightly overrated. I think the Celtics are slightly underrated, and I think that they are the depth and the amount of things they can throw at the Mavericks frightens me for Dallas here.
Yeah, I think so. There are 2 parts of my prediction here. The first part being, I also will just ride or die for my guy Jokic, and I know who Jokic is cheering for in this series. So I'm going to publicly say this is a 4-3 Mavericks victory, with Luka just putting his nuts on the little leprechaun at half court of the Celtics arena in Game 7.
It'd be the only way he could top what he did to Rudy Gobert in terms of mental warfare. He tried to say he was speaking Slovenian was really unbelievable. I didn't say that. Nah, you did say that.
His little smile when he was saying it, though, was perfect.
What does bitch mean in Slovenian?
What is you can't fucking guard me, you little bitch, mean in Slovenian?
Is that it? Oh, it's I'm cooking out here. Okay, yeah. No, that's fair. That seems friendly. You say that a lot.
I do think that you're right that the Celtics are a little underrated in this actual case. Like my head says that the Celtics have been sort of, it hasn't just been the playoffs where they've kicked the shit out of everybody. They've been kicking the shit out of everybody all year. Their point differential was insane. So it feels like a tough task for Luka to do. But I'm going to take 4-3 Mavs.
Okay. I like that. Final thing here that Luka's Slovenian native tongue reminded me of. Who does he call a bitch first in this series, if you had to guess? There's been a lot of rumors he doesn't like Kristaps. Like people in Dallas genuinely don't like Porzingis. So he would be the favorite. They clearly
hated him. Yeah.
He would be the favorite. Drew's not going to talk to him. Tatum won't talk to him. Jalen's too smart to talk to him. Derek White?
Derek White's getting called a bitch. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that's a great sleeper.
That hurts my feelings, by the way. A great Colorado product there in Derek White.
Why are we cheering for him? No.
I think it's just because a lot of men, especially in Colorado, were holding out for a growth spurt that never came. It did for Derek White. So they're just like, dear, it doesn't matter that I'm 30. All right, Derek, he had his late in life, and look at him now. He's a stud.
Yeah.
Derek White's not. He's not going to talk to him, but you might be right that like Luka just might be pissed that a Boston fan
100%.
Derek White will just catch the stray bitch.
And Derek White can be like, he's in your business on defense. Like and I think Luka, Derek White will be politely talking to an official and Luka will walk over and just absolutely out of nowhere. Like, I'm not saying he's going to deserve it.
You fucking fouled me, bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that. Yeah. That feels right. All right. Okay. So
I like Nuggets how cavalier Luka is with it. He just will give it to anybody. When he was giving it to those Oklahoma City fans,
if
warmed my soul. That is super for the soul.
If Jokic just genuinely didn't like one player like that in the league? And it was just like everyone in the league started noticing, and it became like appointment viewing. And it was just because Jokic, it'd be someone random, and it'd be someone who sucks. Like, so Jokic would just be like, nah, this guy pisses me off. And he just talked to him the whole game. And like the rest of the season, he's just normal Jokic. But this is one game, he just goes like Luka and just talks. I think that
I do hope that we get a heel turn from Jokic a little bit. I know we're derailing a little bit here, but it would be my favorite Jokic era if he came back and was like, I actually really don't care now, and I'm going to say exactly how I feel all the time. And you all might not like that as much either, but Eddie just was sort of an asshole to everybody.
Supermax, and then he's just gonna say whatever he wants. That'll be
Listen, brother, I busted his ass the entire night. I don't know what you want me to do. I had 13 assists in the first quarter, I think. I mean, like, they cannot really do anything against me, so it's not that difficult to play basketball when they are that bad.
Yeah, that would be great. I can't wait for him to talk about the Timberwolves like that in 4 years when all those contracts come due.
It's going to be next year, buddy.
Yeah. All right. So that's actually a good
hold on. Did you see that DNVR said that we were going to potentially sign Gordon Hayward?
Yeah,
are they trolling
it's been
me?
all over my Instagram. No,
They had Gordon Hayward and
things.
Danilo Gallinari as our free agency targets, and I almost committed Harry Carey on the porch.
No, we should not get either one of those two guys.
Neither one of them has a knee between them.
Yeah. Gallinari is much more likable than Gordon Hayward. And he said that we were his favorite place to play. And like,
listen, I have said some things to Gallinari since he's
those
been
are
back
unprovoked.
at Denver.
Those are unprovoked and unnecessary.
I'm just saying I would have to publicly apologize.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I had a Nuggets fan yell at me for being too mean to Gallinari.
And she wasn't wrong, in my opinion.
He did only play like 53 total games. So,
listen, anyone who says Denver was their favorite place to play, I'm never going to boo him.
Yeah, well, he didn't play, so maybe that was his favorite part.
Listen, he played until his knee blew out the first time. All right. So, speaking of kind of media narratives and what's going out there, obviously the other big thing that's been there because the NBA, for some reason, just schedules the NBA Finals no matter what. So with 2 short series, we've had a long layoff. And Chennedy Carter started it all for the Chicago Sky by just unnecessarily hip checking. Like she got a running start, hip checked her, and then taunted her, and then didn't talk to the media afterwards, and then was like, no regrets later. And I was like, well, Chennedy, you were drafted 4th overall, and you've bounced around the league and had conduct detrimental to the team in multiple places. I think maybe you should look at yourself a little bit here. But that's not the sterling analysis that we can expect from ESPN. So, of course, it became a thing. It started off when Pat McAfee went on his show and referred to Caitlin as that white bitch in a positive way, talking about how all the difference in the numbers is all Caitlin Clark. Like, he's like, let's stop pretending like it's a whole rookie class or it's a whole movement or it's all that. And he went through like the sold out games, the ratings, even like NBA TV, because he's like, obviously you can't compare ESPN to like something on a lesser thing. And Caitlin Clark does murder everyone in those numbers, by the way. And then it became a viral thing where the analyst for ESPN was on First Take, and she was saying, hey, Stephen A., you could have been promoting this product you could have been doing more for this product. And Stephen was outraged, and they talked and all that. And then they came today, and Stephen said, everyone's mad because she's black players and black people in general haven't gotten enough credit. And he made sure to try to, it was the most annoying thing because he made it look like he was trying to take the high road because he was like, I want everyone to know this is just my opinion. So anything you can come at me for. Like acting like he's going to say something wild. And then he just says the most like mundane take that like I think now anyone who's read Ta-Nehisi Coates agrees with. It was just like basic Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Ta-Nehisi.
Ta-Nehisi.
Yeah.
Ta-Nehisi Coates. Sorry. But, basically it's a very basic, like boring take that's like, hey, there's racism in all areas of life, so it plays into sports, all this stuff. And we kind of experienced this here 2 years ago with the Jokic MVP, Embiid, Perkins saying it was only because he's white, all of that kind of stuff. So I just thought my biggest takeaway from this was none of these people are just watching the games and commenting and trying to break down basketball at this point. Because if you're just trying to break down basketball, you can say, like the McAfee showing them, they're like, well, why is everyone, it seems like that's priority number one. And Breonna Stewart was on their show, and she was like, well, yeah, I mean, she's really good. Like, I think if you can stop her, you probably got a pretty good chance to win. Like, yeah, we're going to face guard her. The rest of their team sucks, was basically what she was saying, which is, in a diplomatic way. So I think there's some of that. I think there's some of it where there's opportunities where Clark will have to learn how to try to play without the ball in her hands all the time. Like, she was kind of a Harden-esque, Luka-esque player. And now we've seen this year in the playoff run, it's not as much of a heliocentric model for the Mavs. And he'll give it up. And you even saw him, people used it as a way to make fun of Gobert. But, like, he went to his guard and was like, no, go at him. That's a mismatch. I don't need the ball back. Like, you know what I mean? Like, kind of empowering his teammates in ways we didn't see. And I think Clark can grow in that and will. But that's none of these discussions. And the Chennedy Carter part, it's like no one talks about her kind of history and, like, the fact that she's kind of had a rough start herself in the league. And she was a stud at Texas A&M and hit huge shots and hasn't made it and has bounced around. And you know what? Now at this point, she's probably looking like, hey, I need to be a defensive player. I need to be a stopper. I gotta be kind of that scrappy Pat Bev to catch on somewhere rather than being a stud. It's people
just
aren't
not
talking about actual basketball.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's ridiculous because, I mean, to be fair, I am not your WNBA source here. Like, it's just yet to catch on in my brain. Like, I haven't gotten as invested into it as you will. So I'm going to trust you on your basketball takes. But the thing that I think has been missing in, like, the narrative around this is that we're talking about, like, who deserves credit for the growth of the WNBA, right? Like, where are the old heads? Like, I want to hear from, like, the Dawn State. Like, what do they have to say to be like, Dawn
Staley was unbelievably kind when talking about Caitlin Clark in the lead
and that's
up to
kind
the
of
game.
what I mean.
Has had no hate.
Like, it actually does feel personal with these players and her more because I think everybody outside of the game right now is just happy that that these players are getting to showcase their skills to a different audience that wasn't going to be invested before Caitlin Clark. Like, I'm sorry if you don't accept that that's part of the reality of the WNBA right now. I don't know what to say to you. Like, you are dumb. You can't look at the ratings in the Final Four and say, oh, no, none of that carried over. None of that's Caitlin Clark. You're like, yes, the WNBA has been building. It's been building for 25 fucking years. Like, this isn't just the last 5 years of like, oh, this is pretty good. Like, there have been points where when Lisa Leslie and all those people were playing, those were big time events. It didn't happen as consistently as it does now, and obviously it's a bigger product now, but like, I haven't heard those old heads be like, hey, what the fuck? Like, we were here. Like, we did this too. Like, it's not just you, Chennedy, and you, like, body checking Caitlin Clark is not good for the game. Like, you're making it a spectacle, and to your point, it takes away from what is and should be just focus on a good product that a lot of people really enjoy.
I think that's what's gotten lost. It doesn't have to be like, okay, to give people the background of Chennedy Carter, she's kind of like Patrick Beverley. So when Patrick Beverley does something,
who you compared me to earlier in the podcast, by the way. This is slander on my name now. So now you've got me in a position there of defending Chennedy and Patrick Beverley. This is not a good position for me to be in.
But like, my point is that this doesn't need to be some big referendum on how the rest of the league is playing or how the rest of the league. There's going to be physicality, and that's on the officials. no one was saying, oh, everyone must hate Jamal Murray in the league. Look at how these Timberwolves are fouling the shit out of him. No, we all just said Mark Davis is a moron. I can't believe he still works in the NBA. And we move right along. That ref who didn't even call a foul there sucks. They blow. That's the story here. That ref blows. And if you are going to allow more skilled and better players to get held and grabbed and all of that stuff, then you should do it as a competitor. Especially if that person can bomb 40-footers and is the reason that a lot of people are in that building. So that energy is going to get buzzy if she starts hitting three. You should grab the shit out of her if the refs are going to let you. That's a good strategy.
I don't want to bring this back to us, but it's why I foul the hell out of you every time we play on one-on-one. Nobody's calling it. And it's the only way I have a possibility to win. So it's stupid of me not to foul the shit out of you. Yes. You're not going to call it. You're not going to say foul. So I'm going to push the line of where you will actually say that is a foul. Give me the ball back. I'm going to find that line and I'm going to ride it. I'm going to ride it hard and hope that, we squeak out a couple threes. And the WNBA is behaving a lot like me, which isn't good. That isn't a positive thing.
But my point is, and it's always
that wasn't your point.
It was close. But my first point is that this narrative should have been about basketball and should have been about holding officials accountable, because if
hold on,
put a good product out there, that is why the whistle is tighter in the NHL. That's why they tightened it up in the NBA, because they were tired of seeing McKinnon and great players like that. And it happened before McKinnon, to be clear. But they were tired of seeing the Red Wings and the brain-dead Devils just grab and hold the Avalanche, who could actually skate.
Is this a WNBA problem, though? Do you think that they're markedly worse than NBA officials? Because I know that
they are terrible, Ryan. Okay, and it's even worse because they're a little bit sexist.
I think that
so they don't want a woman to talk shit to them.
I think
so. They are trash.
I think the officials are I'm not going to sit here and defend officials, but that job is incredibly hard. And they do a really good job on about 98% of the calls. And the 2% is sometimes glaring and in important moments. But sometimes on a replay, you'll watch it back and you'll be like, that can't have been right. And they're right. That's fucking incredible. They make a lot of calls every game. But I agree with you. As someone
who watches the WNBA, it's not that high in the WNBA.
Okay, but that's why I was asking, because I do feel like Dayton, I do feel like
remember his last name, Ryan, because that's what the WNBA refs are. Cheeks.
I do feel
straight
like sometimes
cheeks, Ryan.
the NBA officials get a bad rap. But if the WNBA is markedly worse, which would make sense because they're not paying their players, so they certainly aren't paying the officials. You're not going to get the best. It's like Trump said, they're not bringing our best. They're not sending their best. You get what you pay for.
It's bad. But so I think when people say hey, Caitlin is our most marketable person, we need to change the way the game is officiated so that she doesn't get mauled. I'm like, we shouldn't let anyone get mauled.
Yeah,
stop letting good players get
against mauling. There are rules
Kelsey
against mauling.
Plum is dirty as hell. You should absolutely not let people grab and hold Kelsey Plum. I want to see Kelsey Plum dance. She was the D1 leading scorer. She's on the Aces. She's unbelievable. I want to see Sabrina dance with the Liberty. I don't want to see her get held and grabbed and all this BS. It's terrible. So that's the first point. And then the second point is that I thought was telling was how little the big media heads know. And I'm sorry. I don't ever go to Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp for basketball knowledge. I never do. I never will. I never do. They have terrible takes. Will Bond, all of those guys, Kendrick Perkins, all of them are terrible. The NCAA women's booth is awesome, but that's about the only thing that for like basketball knowledge I would watch. Even the Inside the NBA guys are funny as hell, but I wouldn't trust their basketball takes. Like, they openly admit that they don't watch the games.
They don't watch that.
They're
NBA
at least honest
games.
about it, right? Yeah. And so, to me, I think this is, and why I think it connects to the Nuggets and the Avs and all of these kind of things. If you're frustrated with the dialogue around your favorite player, be it in Indiana, be it in wherever, just don't listen to national people. Like, that's the only way this changes, because when people click on it and people engage with it and people do all of this stuff, even if it's everyone saying this is stupid, ESPN doesn't care until you say, I'm not listening, I'm not clicking, I'm not engaging, I'm not doing that. And here in Denver, we are blessed to have unbelievable people covering our teams who are really passionate about it, and I think really you and I, and who really care about the teams and who want to do a good job and want to be honest about it. And they're not just like blatant homers. They're not just blatant things. I saw Ryan Blackburn had a great take about how sometimes, Nuggets fans, in an effort to defend Jokic, can demonize the supporting cast or make it lesser. I think we have Kozenberg does a great job with Broncos with the CU Buffs coverage. There's just tons of passionate local people, and just support that. And you don't have to have your
don't
team
go to the bar, though.
About.
The bar's a bad deal.
Yeah.
The bar's a bad deal. Don't go to the bar. You could pay for the website, but don't give them any extra money for free. I mean, make the bar better, and then I'll go to the bar. I'll pay for your coverage, but I'm not going to the bar. Don't go to any bars.
Okay, Brian. A hot
all of the bars that I go to have vows in them.
I see. All right, I like it. I don't know how to transition out of that, but yeah, I guess my overall point is, I think
you're right.
I think that
the
there's passionate media, people here, and teams. There's an obsession with being like, well, the biggest people aren't talking about us. You don't want the biggest people talking about you.
No,
they're going to do it stupidly, and even when they were talking about the Nuggets after the NBA Finals, and I was consuming everything, I found myself enjoying way much more talking with you on this podcast, or talking with listening to local stuff, because it was so much more in depth. It was so much more about the journey rather than like a 15-minute like, all right, so the Nuggets did this, and LeBron and free agency. Like,
it's just repetitive, right? Like, they can really only talk about it in like a surface level way.
Surface level. Yeah.
You can't. You have to be able to. If you're engaged and you're actually a fan, you get to dive a second and a third. And right now, I'm in approximately the 7th layer of hell with the Nuggets, but I'm still deep in the mourning process, and it's only June 4th. So that process the healing will begin after the finals are over. And then the hype train will start collecting.
Yeah,
inside my belly.
Yeah, once we get Holmes, that's step
Oh
one.
my God, I'm buying a jersey if we get Holmes.
That's
Holmes
correct.
the second. Like, give me that already.
It's just great.
I might make one right now.
Let's wrap this podcast up, Ryan, with your Rockies viewing experience. You took in, I know yesterday you took in a 13-3 loss. What was your other game attended? Did you get a W?
It's a great question, Kyle, and I'd love to answer that for you. Actually, both games, the opposing team scored 13 runs. The first game was with the Guardians, formerly known as something culturally inappropriate that everybody was still wearing their jersey of. And I did the same thing that I do when North Dakota comes to town in DU and say, who are the Fighting Sioux? I don't know that team. Who are you guys cheering for? Are you Guardians fans? Oh, that's weird. Do you not like the Guardians?
Movie Major League?
Yeah.
You guys are big Charlie Sheen guys?
Yeah. So he no, we lost that game 13-7. And we had my good friend Brian, his family has had season tickets since the inception of the Rockies, and we had very good seats. And I spent most of that game heckling Chris Bryant about his contract and his lack of playing.
Doing the Lord's work.
And he did hit a home run and then immediately made an error that gave up 2 runs. And then I don't think he's actually played since, so maybe I actually really did hurt his feelings. I don't think they can put hurt feelings on the IL report, but I think in this case they would.
He just wasn't feeling up to it today.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys heard, honestly, but yesterday there was a guy saying some really mean things to Chris. All right.
And then I went to a Reds game. The Reds won 13-3. The Rockies put up less of a fight here. I stayed for the entirety of both games. And I can tell you, I guess I saw both Ohio teams, right? Cleveland and Cincinnati. And I don't know why you would root for either of those teams. I mean, I'm barely a Rockies fan at this point, but I'm from Colorado, and that's like, it's something. Yeah. But if you're from Ohio, you should stay your ass at home when these two teams come to town. Because actually, you know what? Whatever. Come to Coors Field. It's a beautiful park.
Okay, break it down for us here. What? How would you rate? Did you sample any hot dogs? Did you get any food?
So you can bring food into Coors Field, which is an underrated part of the experience. So Brian and I picked up. Yeah, Brian and I
is this
picked
a
up
new thing?
I don't know, dude. It was new to me.
Yeah.
I picked up 2 Polish sausages outside of the stadium. And brought those MFers right in.
How are those?
Oh, fantastic.
Dude, it always smells so good when we're leaving the Nuggets games.
Yeah.
I never
well, those guys got arrested, so RIP.
That's an outrage.
But yeah, they were not permitted, so that was tough.
They weren't permitted.
It was wild. Westward wrote a whole story about it.
Thank God.
Yeah,
I hope we up whoever's officer's salary did that yeoman's work.
Could you
no
imagine,
hot dogs without a permit.
Could you imagine if you and I would have been there when they were arresting them?
Oh,
we would have gotten
never
arrested with them.
tackling. I never would have stopped tackling these officers. Oh my God, guys, look at these true heroes out here. My God, no one sells a hot dog without a permit here.
My read on the Rockies is truly that they're the team of our childhood in that they're truly terrible. But the best part about them, in my opinion, is that they're no longer giving us hope until July. They're just terrible from the beginning, and we know they're going to suck. And, it's a statistical anomaly to see a win at a Rockies game. Like, if you go to the park, the odds are really likely that the Rockies are going to lose. And I've been to 2 games so far, and they've lost both of them. So I feel right in line. Everything, my chakras are very aligned. The park is beautiful, by the way. They're doing a great job. The Monforts are printing fucking money.
Great.
Yeah, it's great. Everything's great. Nobody's
upset. Did you fall in love with any players out there? Was there anyone on the Rockies that over 2 games you were like, you know what, he sucks because the team sucks, but like he appears to be a little bit pissed that we're getting our ass beat, or like he did something that just made you fall in love a little?
No.
It doesn't feel like there's that.
No.
Producer
my favorite
Dan,
player.
You've watched a lot of Rockies. You're going to go tomorrow. Can you turn your mic on real quick? Do you like any, like, is there a player that you, over the course of the season, you've been watching a fair amount?
I like Tovar. That guy we signed.
Ezekiel's fine.
Yeah.
Ezekiel's fine.
I like a lot of the guys, but like I just kind of hope they get traded to teams that they can do stuff on. Like, they should all be
my
like
favorite. My favorite
has
always been. My favorite has always been Nolan Jones because I can bet on him to strike out.
Bet on him to strike out.
And he'll always be my favorite Rocky of this year. But knee injury, pretty difficult.
Tough to come back from.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will be back next week. We'll see if Cortland Sutton has reported to the Broncos training camp. We'll have some finals going on, so we'll break down some actual basketball there. And
I need to do some research on the Dolphins.
I'm going to pretend like you didn't say that. All right? That's a hurtful word. All right? We don't say that. Anyway. Thank you for listening. Please rate and subscribe. Share it with your friends. Like we said,
5 stars.
Local media, baby. We're gonna give you our honest breakdown of it, and we appreciate any of the feedback from the report cards. By the way, that's been cool to read through from people. So we appreciate that. Dan posted those. If you haven't seen them yet, check them out. If you missed last week's episode, we gave each organization a ownership, coaching, and roster grade, and kind of broke it down. It was more varied than I thought it was going to be. So it was fun to do, and definitely check those out and give us any feedback you have. We love to hear that stuff. All right, Ryan, anything else for the good people?
Yeah, always make sure that any bar you go to has a vowel in it.
Indeed. Well, we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Lucifer Brothers is a Crab Shell Media podcast.